I think we're all excited about the start of the season. And look, the Cubs got a victory against the Dodgers. They're going to play them for real in Tokyo, Japan here coming up in March. But I was shocked by the designated for assignment handed to Alexander Canario for Justin Turner. And I'm going to tell you guys why. And Luis Vasquez is being designated for assignment kind of goes down the same lines. Now, this is just my opinion. I've also been around this game for a long time, and I'm going to tell you why it makes absolutely no sense at all business-wise. Now, forget about what the guy can contribute or what he can't contribute or what he's going to be in the future or what he is right now. I'm just talking about the business aspect of it. And when you give a front office a one-year deal, basically you don't extend them, and they go all out, mistakes happen. And you give up young players to get aging veterans to try to save jobs. And that's what it feels like to me. I'm going to talk about it right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's get this party started. Hey, great win, though, for the Cubs. Michael Busch almost killed a guy. Man. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm your friend. I'm your pal, Mick Gillespie. Been hanging around baseball here, covering the Cubs since 2007. Been a fan since 84. So, like you, I love the Cubs, and I'm appreciating all of you guys for being here. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that this is the year for the Cubs. But at Broadcaster Mick on the Twitter. All right, let's talk about the move today that surprised me. Now, look, I'm excited about having Justin Turner on the team. Now, I have questioned if he can play third, and you guys brought that up to me. And then when I started looking at it, it's like, less than 100 innings at third base over the last few seasons and 13 games and, starts or whatever. The guy has not played a whole lot of third base. But the Cubs need him to play third base, possibly, if Matt Shaw isn't able to go in there. But they got him as a DH and a first baseman. I never, ever anticipated that the player that they were going to DFA was going to be Alexander Canario. So you're designated the guy you got back in the Chris Bryant trade and one of your top prospects. Canario, we hit at 286 with 2 home runs and 8 RBIs last year in the big leagues in a limited amount of time, but still showed you he can play. He's pretty good defensively. You can put him in the outfield and center. I would say he's more of a corner guy, but still, I mean, this is a high valued prospect. And at one time, he was one of the Cubs' top prospects, and he's hit a ton of home runs in the minor leagues, and he's been a power guy. And then we saw it in the big leagues. Now, it was just a limited sample size. But the problem that I have with it is that you're giving up a 24-year-old who's got potential, and I know there's a logjam of outfield prospects. You make a trade and you give up your third baseman of the future and your all-star third baseman to get another outfielder, and now you're designating one of your prospects for assignment to sign a 40-year-old when you have a third base job open and we don't even know if he can play third. If he can play third, then it doesn't bother me as much. But if he's a DH, when you already have a DH, a right-handed hitting DH, and a backup first baseman, okay, you better have a good year at 40 years old. And he's been a great hitter, Turner, over the years. He's a good leader. He's a fun guy. Talked about how much he liked Michael Busch. And remember when he got drafted. Look, Michael Busch is a great player, and it's awesome to have Turner on the team. I thought that it would be Gage Workman, who actually had a pretty good game yesterday. And the Cubs need a third base backup. Look, I get the math, but I was shocked by this. And the reason why isn't that they gave up on Canario. You're not going to get anything for him. I mean, look, and who knows if anybody's going to put him on their 40-man or, be whatever. I mean, I don't know that. But what I do know is that when the value was there and you look at your organization and go, okay, we got this many outfielders, we got this many infielders, we have a log jam there, and people are already starting to say, hey, man, you know what? I don't like the guy strikes out a lot. Maybe he's not as good, crisp in the outfield. I think he's a smart player, but, obviously he doesn't make contact some, and that's definitely an issue with the scouts and all that stuff. Then trade him last year when you could have got something for him. You got to identify that as an organization. Look at the Atlanta Braves. They're so good at this. Look at the Oakland A's. They're going to identify their guys with internal scouting early and make those moves. That's what you do. You don't designate a 24-year-old who was a prospect, and did you trade it Chris Bryant for and get very little back or maybe nothing back in return. And we saw the same thing with Luis Vasquez. And I know, look, Luis Vasquez, he hit in Double-A, struggled a little bit at the plate in winter ball. He didn't do much when he was at the plate and like 11 at bats for the Cubs. But he's 25 years old. He's a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. He can play third. And you designated him when you signed the utility guy, 35-year-old John Birdie. Like, here's another guy that you invested in for years. I mean, this is a guy that the Cubs signed. Think about all those years of working with this guy. Drafted him in the 14th round in 2017 out of Puerto Rico. And then all of those years, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and then you just release him. And he got to the big leagues last year. It's another guy that you could have got something back for if you identified the fact that you didn't think he could hit. Or the other thing is maybe you transform him into a catcher. Robinson Chirinos was a great example of that. He played shortstop. They didn't think he could hit. They turned him into a catcher. And he ended up getting into the big leagues, and it turned out that he could hit. He was a pretty good catcher. It's not like the organization has a ton of catching. And who knows? It's you just look at this stuff. And I'm reading all the stories from the national writers that are ripping the Ricketts because they're not spending money and they don't want to do this and they don't want to do that. And it's frustrating. Look, as a Cubs fan, it is frustrating. I would have loved to have seen them sign Alex Bregman. I would have loved to have seen them got, Burns or, like a top-notch starting pitcher, spend a bunch of money. But when your track record is Jason Hayward and Dansby Swanson, which the book's still out on Swanson, but these are your two big signings. I don't know that there's a lot of confidence in what you're going to go out there and do. And I know the Cubs came out and said, we're not going to do any more deferred contracts. And a lot of you guys hate that. And I honestly, I feel like a lot of that has to do with the position that you're in. 2015, hey, everybody felt really confident about the team's chance to go out and win a World Series. And they did. They went out and, they add Ben Zobrist, you go out and make moves. You pay a ton of money to do this, right? As a business, but you make more when you win. But you entrust the front office in being able to develop within the organization these guys, these Canarios and Vasquez's, and you have to do the internal scouting. And this is when they cut all these scouts and they don't believe in scouting. And I'm not just talking about the Cubs. I'm saying it in general. And then you see two top prospects, two guys that should be that are going to play in the big leagues. They are. And who knows if they're going to be great or they're going to be good. Who knows what's going to happen to them when it's all said and done, right? But I'm talking about the value that the player has. The value. The value would have been higher on Canario last year, 2 years ago. Somebody's got to identify that early, because what happened yesterday, releasing him, it's a stunner because it's a bad investment. It's a bad investment. And the business of baseball, there's somebody out there is shaking their head behind the scenes going, what did we just do? So we got a 40-year-old that we don't know if he can play third base when we need a third baseman. Don't we have Seiya Suzuki to DH and Kyle Tucker? But now we got another guy. I don't know. It's just, look, makes no sense to me. I hope it's the right move because I want to see the team win. But I don't hear anybody else talking about this. And that's why I did this channel. Because what's going to happen is when they're good, everybody's going to look back and be like, hey, remember Dontrell Willis? Whoa. What, the D train, right? Chris Archer. Remember Chris Archer? You'll be like, oh, we had him. These are the moves that come back to bite you. And if you get something back for these guys, it's not as bad. You're like, well, look, we traded him, but we got this guy back, and we felt pretty good about it. You make a trade and you give away, a guy that's going to help you possibly win a championship one day. And you don't get anything back or a small return, then, sometimes you look back and you're like, man, what's going on right here? I mean, even when the Cubs made that, what I thought was a dumb trade, when they traded Dylan Cease for Jimenez to get Jose Quintana back. At least you got Jose Quintana back. He, by the way, he's still out there. Cubs could sign him. He's a free agent. And you know what? The guy was serviceable. Now Cease has come to age, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. We can't even afford to get him back. Maybe next year as a free agent. But the bottom line is that they didn't even do that with these deals. And they knew that there was a logjam in the outfield. And then they went out and traded for another outfielder and gave away some infielders. And you're just kind of sitting around going, well, I hope that I see the plan that they're trying to put together. But it was shocking to me. And I wish both, I wish both guys great luck. I hope Turner comes in and kills it. And I hope Canario goes wherever he's going to go and does really good. Now, with that said, let's turn the page. I know a lot of you guys are fired up. Get in the comments section and argue with me. I love it when you do that. And the argument's going to take a while to figure out what the argument is. I mean, look, both of these guys could wash up, and then you know what? I'm wrong. Or maybe it wasn't a bad deal, but it's a risk. You're giving away, a guy that came in and showed you he can hit for power for a 40-year-old rental that we don't even know if he can play third. And, how long is Turner going to last? I hope Turner has a great season. He's a great guy, by the way. All right, Cubs back in action. And one thing that I love is that we had our first ever MLB successful strike zone challenge. Cody Poteet, he was the return in the Cody Bellinger sell-off to the Yankees. And he didn't look great in the spring training game, but it's the first spring training game, and it's out in Glendale, Arizona. But they reversed the strike. It was a ball. Boom. They made it a strike. And I've been begging for this. I love it. I love it. Challenge, have a challenge. I think it's a good idea. And I'm not one who cares about, don't tell me about the human element. I don't want to hear about the human element. I want them to get it right. It was pretty cool to see it. Now, it's only for spring training this year, but eventually it'll be in the big leagues. So go Cubs. They got the first ever strike zone challenge reversal, and too bad Angel Hernandez is out of the game. Can you imagine watching him screw up and then going, hey, let's call upstairs. Yeah, that's a strike. Sorry, buddy. All right. Some of these guys are really good, by the way, at calling balls and strikes. You're not going to use that much, but some of them, not so good. Cubs beat the Dodgers 14-4. Michael Busch hit a screaming line driver back off of the pitcher's head, but he was all right, thankfully. They said it was like 106, almost 107 miles an hour. A screamer. And he was the only guy that was in the game that's going to be on the Cubs opening day roster, probably. But it's good to see him out there getting going. And then Justin Turner officially on the team now. Everybody seems to be excited about him. He's bringing like a little bit of swag, an aura. Says he wants to be on a team that's ready to win. That's the Cubs. I think it's that the Cubs are offering him a $6 million 1-year deal. And I think he would have taken that from anybody. But I love having him. I really do. So, and I hope that he has, he haunts the Dodgers in Japan, right? Because he's a big game player. I mean, you can't take that away from him, right? One of the best playoff hitters that I can remember, right? And he did it over a ton of games for the Dodgers. So pretty cool seeing him out there in a Cubs uniform, around the facility and all that stuff. So anyway, that's the show today. we're going to keep an eye on this stuff. I'm sorry to have to kind of get on here and, and not be so fired up about getting rid of Canario. And then, I'm reading stories like, oh, but the Cubs roster's getting better. The Cubs are risking their future doing this stuff. This is mortgaging the future. And they should have done this. They should have made trades for these guys and gotten value back. If they knew that they didn't want them, they should have figured that out 2 years ago when the guy with Velasquez. He had a huge double-A season. Played Gold Glove defense, hit 270, had some power. Somebody would have taken him. Throw him in one of those deals. Get some young players back and instead of just selling him off to Baltimore. And then, you hope that he doesn't pop back up and turn into the next Marwin Gonzalez. Remember Marwin Gonzalez? Yeah, won a World Series with the Astros and wasn't protected on the roster. They just plucked him away and ended up having a pretty good big league career. Anyway, like, subscribe, thumbs up, get in the comments section. Come at me, people, if you want to. High five me if you want to. But baseball is back, even though it was spring baseball. And a really long and tedious 14-4 win for the Cubs against the Dodgers at Camelback Ranch. It was great to have baseball. We'll have some more baseball coming up tomorrow. Go Cubs, everybody. Thanks. And we'll do it again tomorrow. Appreciate you all, though, for being here.